How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to episode here on Let's Build Twitter. As always, I'm Ethan, or Unknown Coder, your favorite underqualified senior software engineer. I want to start this episode by saying sorry for the sloppy last episode. We made a bunch of mistakes. I'm going to go ahead and correct them this episode. It was just kind of typing errors and stuff like that. That in this episode, this package of episodes that I'm working on right now was so massive that things just kind of got missed here and there. So that's what happened. But as always, if you guys don't want access to the private repository, there's a link in the description down below that'll walk you through exactly how to gain access to that. With that being said, let's hop into what we're working on today. Today we're going to go ahead and continue working on this. Like I mentioned, we're going to go ahead and fix it up so that this is no longer broken. Fingers crossed. We're also going to go ahead and try to work on the bottom controls, and we're going to try to see if we can get completely done and finished up with this guy and saving some cropped images. That way we don't have one random short episode that's like 10 minutes long of finishing that up. So with that being said, let's go and hop into the code, fix our bugs, and get going here. So we're going to go ahead and start out inside of our CSS. So let's hop into our edit media modal CSS. So I completely just forgot a CSS class in here, and I figured that I probably did because I didn't see the flex that I was looking for. So we need our edit dash media modal dash top, and this is our input dash section. So this is like the new flex box that we needed. So our width is going to be 100%. Our height is going to be back to 53px, maybe. Then we're going to have a padding, and this where the padding went to 0.16px, and then our display of flex. We're going to go ahead and justify content, space, if I could type, space between. Then we're going to also go ahead and align items in the center. So that should fix that up. Also, if we come down here, we notice that our line wasn't working. That's because we have our edit media dash modal top tab underline. We missed media there. So fingers crossed that should fix those issues. Let's hop into the component itself. So in here itself, I forgot to delete this, but right now we have description. We want to go ahead and change this to descriptions, and then here we have media. This wants to be, or needs to be underscore or under lowercase media, I'm sorry. And then here, these also need to check for under or lowercase. I don't know why I'm trying to say under. And then here, this needs to check instead of description. It needs to check for descriptions with an S. Same thing here. I forgot to undo this, but instead of a description, it needs to be with an S. So I think that should fix those. And as long as we have the top tab underline working, that should be fine as well. So let's go ahead and see if that actually fixed it. So let's hop into the front end. Let's go ahead and give it a refresh. And I'm going to blur my screen for a sec. Then we click on edit. It should come here. Alt, the underline is working. And then we get back to this. So now that is working again. We can't apply yet. Or we might be able to apply, I'm not sure. We haven't really done anything, so I'm not going to click apply. But now the thing is, whenever we're inside this crop media, we need to update this controls to be slightly different. So that's what we're going to work on next. Then we'll get all of the saving and all of that stuff done. So with that being said, let's hop back into the code and get to work on what I actually wanted to work on today. So let's go ahead and first hop into our image editor component. We need to make a change and add a use effect. That way we know whenever our target height and width is changing. So we're going to have our preview width, our preview height. We're going to have our target height and target width as well. And I believe that's all we need to add in here. And what we're going to go and do is we're going to add a use effect down here. Let me go ahead and scroll down here. Below this use effect, we're going to go ahead and say use effect. We're going to set up a use effect that watches our height and width here. So we're going to watch our target height, our target width. We're going to go ahead and watch our preview, preview height and preview width. And this is because we are going to be changing these inside of that little button selector that we have at the bottom. We're going to check to make sure we have a native height first and a native width. And if that's the case, we're going to go ahead and call calculate dimensions. Once again, it's going to go ahead and say native height and then native width. All right, and that's going to go ahead and recalculate our sizing for us whenever we go ahead and rescale the ratios and whatnot. So that should fix that. Now let's go ahead and go into the controls where the bulk of the work is. So inside of here, we're going to go ahead and bring in some image stuff. So we'll go ahead and have our zoom level like we did before. We're also going to go ahead and want the image, and then after the zoom level, we'll also go ahead and bring in the target. We're going to bring in the target height and the target width. So we're going to bring those in, and then we're going to go ahead and set up some use state here. So const and active ratios, and set active ratios is going to equal to use state. Bring in use state, and this is going to be a string array. The problem is we can have multiple active, so this was a little bit annoying, but we're going to have original, we're going to have const, and then active. Actually, we're going to have native height and set native height. If I could type, and this is going to be equal to use state. This will be a number, and this will start out as 0. Maybe if I could type, that'd be cool. We'll also have const and then our native width and set native width. Again, if I could type, that'd be cool. Equal to use state, and then this will be a number as well, and this will start out as 0. So we need to go ahead and set up some stuff there. I don't know why this one is mad at us. Whatever, I guess we'll figure it out as we go. Now we need to go ahead and set up some fun stuff. So we're going to go ahead and go kind of like to the bottom here, and we're going to go ahead and say const handle ratio selected, and then in here we're going to equal to, and we'll have an e react.mouse event, and this is going to be on an HTML div element. Actually, we're going to set up buttons this time. Okay, button element. And in here, we're going to check to see if our native and then width is greater than our native height, and if our e.currentTarget.id is equal to wide, and then or our e.currentTarget.id is equal to original. So if it's widescreen originally, or if it's like a basically a landscape picture originally, then we're going to go ahead and select wide and original. We're going to say set active ratios, and here we're going to go ahead and say original, and we're going to go ahead and say wide. I don't know why Twitter does this. It's annoying, whatever. We're going to say let ratio equal to native width divided by our native height, and then we're going to say let new preview, and then width equal to, and this is going to equal to 468 divided by ratio, and then we're going to go ahead and say we want a new preview height here instead, so new preview height is equal to 468 divided by ratio. Then we're going to go ahead and dispatch. We need to go ahead and dispatch update dimensions, and we're going to go ahead and pass in our preview width is going to be 468. Our preview height is going to be new, and then preview height, and then our target height is going to be native, or target height is going to be native height. I might have done this backwards, but it might be okay. And target width is going to be our native width, if I could type. So that's going to set up if we do wide, and then we're going to say if our native width is equal to our native height, so it's a square, and we have e.currentTarget, and then .id is equal to a square, or our e.currentTarget.id is equal to original. All right, if that's the case, then we're going to go ahead and say set active ratios, and this is going to be original, and it's going to go ahead and be square. Then we're going to go ahead and say dispatch, and this one's going to be like the simplest one, update dimensions, and here we're just going to set everything to basically preview width will just be 468. Our preview height will just be 468, and then our target width will just be our native width. We'll just go ahead and put it back to the original, and then our target height will just be our native height. And now we need to do a couple more checks. So now we need to check if we are in original and tall, or basically in portrait mode. So we're going to say if e.currentTarget.id is equal to original. If this is the case, then we're going to go ahead and say let ratio equal to, and we'll say native height divided by native width. And then we're going to go say let new maybe preview, and then width is going to equal to 468 divided by our ratio. And then we can go ahead and say dispatch and update dimensions again. And inside update dimensions, we'll have our preview height pegged at 468. We'll go ahead and set our preview width. This is going to be our new, and I spelled preview wrong. I did it twice. Oh my goodness. Preview. And then we fix it here. Preview. And then we fix it here. Preview. Okay. And then we also need to go ahead and pass in our target height, which would be native height. And we also need to pass in our target width, which would be native width. Okay, and then now we need to go ahead and select a couple more. So next, if we have wide selected and the image was not originally wide, so here we'll say if e.currentTarget is equal to wide. So here we'll go ahead and say let ratio equal to 16 divided by 9. Is going to go 16 by 9 ratio. Let new, and then target height is equal to native width divided by our ratio. And then we're going to go ahead and say dispatch maybe. And then we're going to go ahead and dispatch update dimensions. And here we're going to go ahead and say our preview width is going to be 468 px. Just 468. Our preview type preview height is going to go ahead and be 263, which is 16 by 9. And then we're going to go ahead and have our target width is going to be native width. And then our target height is going to be a new target height. And then finally, we need to go ahead and say the square selected. So square selected, and the image is not originally, if I could type square. So now we can say if e.currentTarget and then .id is equal to square. So this is going to be really fun to debug whenever I inevitably break something. So we're going to say let target height and width equal to, and here we're going to say native height is less than native width question mark. If that's the case, we're going to go ahead and go with the native height. Otherwise, we'll go with native width. We'll just go with the smaller one here. We're going to go ahead and dispatch and update dimensions once again. And then here, we're going to go ahead and say preview width is going to be 468. And then we will have our preview height of 468. And then our target width is going to be target, hopefully I spelled this right, target height and width. And then target height will also be target height and width. Target height and width. There we go. And now we need to make sure we pass .id here. And what other ones we have? New preview width. Looks like I still typoed something here. Let me go ahead and fix this. Oh, it's because, undo that. Have an extra W there. Still mad at me because I still typoed something incorrectly. Nope, it's fine. Any other typing errors? It doesn't look like it. And then if this is the case, it looks like, are these supposed to return? Let me double check. Yes, these two should go ahead and return, so we don't do any extra logic after this. Then at the bottom of this guy, we're going to go ahead and set the ratio, set active ratios. This is going to be an array. with e dot current target, current target dot ID. So if we don't have a special case where we're going to select multiple, we're just going to do that. Next, we're going to go ahead and set up and is active ratio. So const is active, and I think I call it ratio equal to, and this is going to take in a ratio of string, and this is just going to return a boolean. So return active ratios dot includes. We're going to pass in that ratio just to kind of cut back on some of the clutter we have. And then finally, we're going to set up a use effect. Inside the use effect, we're going to go ahead and watch for the image to change. And we're going to go ahead and basically get the height and width from this. So here, we're going to go ahead and say let img equal to new image. We've done this a million times. Probably should have been a utility function somewhere. Image to src is equal to image. Image.onLoad is going to be equal to an arrow function. And then here, we're going to say let height equal to img.height. We're going to say let width equal to img.width. So just get us that width. Set native width here, or set native height is going to be equal to height. We're going to say let native width equal to width. And then we'll say let ratios equal to, and we're obviously going to set it to original. To start out, original. Hopefully I spelled that right. I'm going to say if our width is greater than our height, then we're going to go ahead and say ratios dot push. We're going to go ahead and push wide as well. And we're going to say if our width is equal to our height, we're going to say ratios dot push. And we're going to go ahead and push square because they're supposed to be active. We're going to go ahead and set active ratios to those ratios we just set up. Ratios. Okay, so now I don't know why it's saying height and width isn't used. Okay, now we're ready to set up the new HTML, which I don't know if it's going to be too bad here. I think we're just going to go above our zoom out, and all we're going to do is going to add a target is equal to edit post picture, edit post, underscore post underscore picture. And because this is the only time it's going to be active, we're going to have a div class name equal to, and this is going to be edit dash media modal ratios dash select. And we're going to have to do some work inside of our slider, but it is what it is. We'll figure that out when we get there. We're going to have a button, and then inside of our button, it's going to have an ID equal to, I'm going to start out with original. I'm sure I'm going to break something here. Class name is going to go ahead and equal to edit media dash modal dash ratio selector. And inside here, we're going to have on click, on click is equal to handle ratio selected. And finally, disabled is going to be equal to is active ratio. And we're going to go ahead and pass in original. So if that is included, we'll go ahead and disable the button. And then inside here, we need to go ahead and set up an SVG. So this will be original aspect, aspect ratio, SVG. And I don't know if we're going to have time to do all of this today. It's going to be interesting. We're going to go ahead and copy this button. Let's copy this button, and then let's go ahead and paste it below. So now we need to go ahead and do our wide. So paste that in. So now instead of ID original, we're going to go ahead and say ID wide. And then down here, instead of original, we're going to go ahead and say wide. And then here we'll have wide aspect ratio, SVG. So wide, and let's go ahead and copy paste this guy again. So copy it, and then let's come down here and paste it again. So paste, there we go. So now this is going to be square. So we'll have our square aspect ratio. We'll go ahead and check if it's active with square. And then here we'll have our square aspect ratio SVG. So square, that's fine. Doesn't matter if it's uppercase, we're going to delete it anyway. And then now inside of our div here for modal slider, we need to go ahead and add a style. So we're going to go ahead and say style is equal to width. The target is equal to, and edit post picture question mark. If that's the case, we're going to target 280 px. Otherwise, we're going to go and target 360 px. This is the most elegant way I figured out to do that. And then I think maybe that's all we had to change in here. I don't think we touched anything else. We might have touched some CSS. So let's go ahead and first we'll set up the aspect ratios and then we'll mess with the CSS. So let's open up our Explorer. Let's come over here to our components and our SVGs. Let's go ahead and start out with original aspect ratio svg.tsx. Hop in here. We're going to go ahead and import our svg props, and then we're going to go ahead and say export default function, and this will be original aspect packet type ratio svg. We'll have our props, which are svg props, and then return. Let's hop into Twitter. I'll show you guys where to get this. So this is going to be this guy right here. Go and copy, and we're going to go ahead and copy this guy. Let's go back in, go and paste that in. I'll clean it up really quick. Now we can go ahead and get rid of this class and the style that we do not need. And then here we're going to go ahead and say that our height is equal to props.height. We're going to go ahead and say our width is equal to props.width. We're going to go ahead and come into our path. Fill is equal to props.color, question mark, props.color. Otherwise, it's going to be #000. Looks good. Let's open up our Explorer. Let's go ahead and create a new one. So it's going to be wide aspect ratio svg.tsx. Hop in here. Let's go and import our svg props. Not from React. We want this from our global interfaces. So let's try again. Import svg props from the global interfaces. That's better. Export default function, and this is wide aspect ratio svg. And this is going to take in props of svg props. Return. Let's go and grab this. Once again, it's going to be this guy. So let's grab this, copy element, hop back in, paste it. Let me clean it up. Once again, let's go ahead and get rid of this class and style that we do not need. We're going to go ahead and say that our height is equal to props.height. We're going to go ahead and say our width is equal to our props.width. We'll set up our fill. So now fill is equal to props.color, question mark, and this will be props.color. Otherwise, we'll say #000. Now let's go ahead and hop to Explorer. Now we'll go ahead and do square aspect ratio svg.tsx. Last one. Hop in here, import our svg props. And unfortunately, we're probably not going to have enough time to get everything done today. We're probably going to wrap it up after this. And then after this, we'll go ahead and export default function, and this one is square aspect ratio and svg. Take in our props, which are svg props. We'll go ahead and return. Let's grab this one, go ahead and copy the square one, and we're going to go ahead and I missed it. Let me try again. We want the svg. Go ahead and copy element, go ahead and paste this one in. Let's clean it up a little bit. This one is good to go. Now let's go ahead and throw these inside of our component. Actually, no, we're not good to go. I'm sorry, I need to go ahead and clean up the class and the style. Then we'll go ahead and say height is equal to props.height. Go ahead and say width is equal to props.width. We'll go ahead and pass in our fill. Fill is equal to props.color, question mark, props.color. Otherwise, #000. Go ahead and save that. Now let's hop into our component and throw these in. Inside our controls, first we'll go ahead and get rid of our original aspect ratio. So original aspect ratio svg. Here we'll have a width equal to 20. We'll have a height equal to 20. And then we'll say color is equal to is active ratio. Go ahead and pass in original, and question mark. If that's the case, we'll do pound and 1D A1 F2, our Twitter blue. Otherwise, we'll do pound. Make sure we put it in here, pound 657786. Go ahead and close that off. Now I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and copy this guy, and I'm going to paste it in and change it to wide. So let's go ahead and do this. I just I don't feel like pasting or putting in all of this stuff again. Go ahead and paste it in here. So now instead of original, let's go ahead and throw wide in here. And let me go ahead and space CF this to fix it. Oh, never mind, it doesn't want to fix it. That's cool. Go ahead and throw wide aspect ratio SVG. And of course it's going to be dumb. And then here, this needs to be wide instead of original. So now we'll go ahead and say wide. Let's go and fix this button that just broke for no reason. There we go. And then let's go ahead and copy paste wide and do square. So once again, go ahead and copy this guy. Come down here. Go ahead and get rid of square. Paste him in there. And then here, instead of wide, we'll go ahead and throw square in here. So let's delete this. Let's make this a square aspect ratio SVG. And then in here, instead of wide, we're going to go ahead and say square. So that looks good. Now, of course, we need to style this. There's a lot that can go wrong here. We're actually like 1 or 2 steps away, so I might try to get it all done. I'm terrified here, but let's hop into the styles. So now inside the styles, we're going to go ahead and come down here. The way we have display flex, we're going to add some padding. We're going to go ahead and say padding 0, 20 px. We already have a display flex, but we're going to go ahead and change our justify content. Going to be space between now. Align items going to be center, and we're going to only have a gap about 4 px just to make it work a little bit better. And then we're going to come down here and edit some of this. So edit dash media modal ratio select. Here we're going to go ahead and have width of 50%. We're going to go ahead and have a display of flex. A justify content is going to be space between, and align items in the center. We're going to have edit media modal and then ratio selector. And here we're going to have a width of 34 px. It's going to be that button. Our height of 34 px. We're going to go ahead and display flex this so we can center everything. So justify content in the center, align items in the center. We're going to have a border on this. Border of none, and then we're going to have a border dash radius of 100% and a background of transparent. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the hover. Edit dash media modal dash ratio selector hover. We want to make sure we do this right. Here we're going to have a cursor pointer, and we're going to have a background dash color of RGBA, and this one's going to be like our Twitter blue, so 29, 161, 242, 0.1. And now we need to make some changes to like just some of our image sliders. So here we're going to go ahead and say, instead of this, we're going to set 100% width on the slider. We're going to come down to the slider group. Once again, we're going to set 100%. And actually, this guy should be 50%. So let me go ahead and throw 50 in there. And then finally, where we have another width at, I'm not sure. Let's find it. It says line 55-ish. We might have already changed it. Let's see. 100. And I think it can't be slider right or left. We want width of 50% here on 35/36. We want it at about 43, which I'm guessing is this one, but I'm not sure where the 55 is supposed to be, because slider left, I don't think we want width 100%. Maybe we do. I feel like that's going to break everything. We'll see what happens here. So we might need to look at this one to see what's going on with this. There's like one more thing to actually save this. I also want to see how bad this looks before we hop into the final thing. If we refresh and let's go ahead and open up an image, we click on edit, and we definitely missed something here, a display flex. But if we click on this, it's actually working. That's good. We missed a display flex somewhere. I'm not sure where that is. It's going to be, I'll have to double check that because this should obviously be like this, but this is actually working, so that's good. Let's see where we missed this display flex at. It's going to be, let me look at this component really quick. It's going to be this component here, ratios select. I might have just missed an S or added an extra S. So here, I think I might have accidentally added an extra S. Let me go ahead and fix this again. So we come back up here and add an S here and save that. And let's see now. There we go. It looks better. We can click between these. We can zoom in a little bit. And now we need to go ahead and make it so that whenever we click apply, it actually does something. Let's hop back into our edit media modal and try to wrap it up. This is going to be a long episode, but fingers crossed this will be the end. So now we need to go ahead and come back up here. We have our different states. So we need to add a case for our profile picture. So case edit underscore post picture. And if this is the case, we're going to say let updated images is equal to images dot map, and then we're going to have our image and our IDX. This is why we needed the edit index here. And then here we're going to go ahead and say if our post image index is equal to not equal to first undefined, and our post image index is equal to our index, so IDX. Then we want to go ahead and return ... img, comma, image URL, it's going to be image. Okay, and then we need to go ahead and return said image. So inside the map, return img, and then we need to, that should be fine. We're just not using it, so it's mad at us. I don't know why this is mad at us. We'll figure that out in a second, maybe because it could run through or something. And we'll go ahead and dispatch and update post images like so. And then here we're going to go ahead and say images is going to be updated images, and then we'll go ahead and have our GIF, doesn't matter. And then let's make sure we spell this right, updated images. Now why is this case broken? Case edit post picture space FD, fall through case and switch. Okay, we can go ahead and break, that's fine. Is that really what it's mad about? Okay, it is. So now in theory, whenever we click save, it'll go through whichever image, figure out which one we have selected, which we're going to have to figure out how to deal with whenever we do like the side to side that I just noticed. But then it should go ahead and run our save image and do all that stuff. So let's just see what happens. If we go ahead and come in here, click apply, it looks like it changed, so it looks good. We can go ahead and delete it. That is all good to go. Now we can go ahead and let's just do a quick image. We can go ahead and let's just zoom in on it maybe. We'll go ahead and just zoom in, apply, and post. And now we have our zoomed in image, and this is broken right now, so we need to fix that, but we haven't gotten to that point. So that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode. I know it's a little bit longer, but now we can go ahead and actually edit the images that we have inside of our post. What we need to go ahead and do in the coming episodes is go ahead and figure out how to add those descriptions, add those flags, and also be able to kind of click through them inside that modal. So if you did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Everything helps out here with the YouTube algorithm. If you do want to see we start from absolute scratch to get to where now, there's a place and an in card like over here, something. The camera is reversed. That'll walk through exactly how we did all this. So with that being said, this has been Ethan or Unknown Coder. I appreciate y'all. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.